Hey, so I thought it might be quite cool before I make a final basic video on rank and rent. I may make other ones later on, but I think it's particularly important to cover a bit of keyword research or keyword data you should know before you basically try and rank up a site. Sorry. In a lot of cases, people often do this wrong. They often, pick a niche out of the top of their head, basically. For example, they might pick something like, say, for argument's sake, dog walking. Now, I know you can get money from it, but just use an example. So let's just say for dog walking, the cost in your area is, say, for argument's sake, to hire someone for an hour is, say, $20. I'm just using 20, it could be more, it could be less, but let's just say it's 20 for example purposes. So, if they only charge $20 an hour for basic dog walking services in your area, then can we expect to get big money from this? No. What's the most we can get? If we're going to go into it, the most we can probably get is like $5 at most. So if we can only get that sort of money, then it's highly unlikely we're ever going to really make any serious money from it. So trying to do a rank and rent is sort of low commission is not really going to be worth it unless you have a load of sites or it's basically one of your sites and you've got loads of other ones which are doing much better. If that's the case, you could do it, but having a rank and rent should generally allow the person running it to get at least, I would say, at least $1,000 to at least 2,000 for it to be really worthwhile you doing it as a client thing. I'm just putting dollars and pounds for obvious reasons. So anyway, if we use that example, let's just say the first page of Google they can get around 1,000 to $2,000, pound, whatever euro, whatever currency you got. So if we can get something like that, just for example, let's go £2,000. If we can get say £2,000 as an example for the basically the sales cost, the sales value, then we could then say if that's the case, then it would be reasonable for you to get paid by them every month, say 500 to say a max of £1,000. 1,000 may be a bit high depending on the cost or risk, but 1,000 is as high as you could go. Any more than that, they're probably losing money to be honest, unless you got a very very high profit margin for what you're doing. So you have to be a bit reasonable with regard to whatever you're going to charge people. But for this sort of thing, probably under 1,000 would probably be better. So say for example we might go 800 instead. We might go say 500 to say £800 per month. So if you work that out as a sort of amount, that means it gives you a steady stream of income. It's not going to make you incredibly rich, of course, but it still gives you extra money. I mean, for example, you could be, say, for argument's sake, let's just say you're working McDonald's. You're working McDonald's, you're serving food. This gives you an extra money every month, like say, for argument's sake, say £800, $800, €800, or whatever your currency is. So that's a good bit of extra money. It could be for whatever you want. It could be give you an extra holiday a year. It could be it helps pay your debt off. It could be just give you extra money. Whatever you need it for, it can help. So you can do things like this. Have one site doing it, 800, 2, 3, 4. You can put it up. So that's something you should be aware of. Don't assume that you only can have one rank and rent site. That's me, good to go. You can have as many as you want. You can have 10, you can have 100. You can base it as many as you want. As long as you're making money or you will end up making money from it, then cool, do it. But like always, you have to make sure you can actually make money from it. This is part of what people get often wrong regarding keyword research. If you do research and you can find out your commission rate is only going to be like $1 for sort of things, if you're selling leads, then it's probably not worth you doing it. If your commission instead for leads is say something like say 50 to say max of say 300, then we could consider this could be quite a good place to sell leads. So you can do it two different ways. You can simply sell the leads for say $50, $100, 200, 300. You can in some cases do it higher, but this of course depends on your niche. This depends on how much money your client can actually make. So you have to do big research in to find out what exactly is the price you're selling services. For example, let's just say for some reason, for example purposes, they get paid say on average $5,000 per basically sale. If we work out something like that, if that is the case, they're getting quite good money, then I would say it'd be reasonable to say to them, hey, would you be willing to pay me $500 or €500 per lead? They'd probably say yes to you, as long as they're making decent money. If you're taking like $5,000 per lead, then I think charging that is a reasonable amount. You could do less if you feel comfortable, maybe 100, 200, 300. But like everything, try and do your best to work out what is going to be a cost. If you can, it'll be a really good idea for you to actually approach local business and be like this, hey, I'm just wondering really what exactly you charge for your services. Most of them will generally be willing to tell you as long as you're polite enough and you're friendly enough regarding them, they'll tell you. So that's a way you can find out if they don't have it on their website. Some local businesses don't have their prices. This could be simply down to, each job's unique. For example, joinery jobs can be very unique each time. Your plumbing service can be unique each time. So because of this, in some cases in local businesses, they won't actually have, this is the cost sort of thing. They may have, an hourly cost, for example, say their hourly cost was say for instance $100 per hour. If it costs $100 per hour, you could then try and use that to work out what exactly the cost would be potentially to basically them to do a job. For example, if we work out say they do 10 hours, for example, 1,000, and that's sort of the average job they do is say $1,000, then I think you asking for say 100 would be kind of a reasonable amount. It's not too greedy, it's not too much. So that's what you can do if you do research, but do as much research as you can. Don't jump into it, just pick up a few names, magic tricks services or something like that. I mean, if you can prove you can make money from it, you do research, you find out what the average spend in regards to, hiring a magician out is, and it turns out is worth they're getting good money for it, then you can charge a bit more. But you have to do research into finding out what exactly is the sales cost of a service. If you find out it's quite high, for example, plastic surgery sort of things can be quite a lot of money in some cases, then you can get a good amount per leads. You can do it lead style like that, or you can do it other way where you basically just sell it for a flat rate. By a flat rate, it could be like this. You could then charge, say, 500 to, say, 3,000 example per. You could get more, but I'm just for example purposes. So, if you get regularly, say, between 500 to £3,000 per sales per month in regards to you basically redirecting your site to their one, that's one way you can do it. You can also do it a different way in a sense, you basically put down a little thing on the site saying, hey, this site itself is run by whoever the joiner or your client is, or your taxi firm you're representing. You can do things like that as well if you don't want to do a redirection, because when you do a redirection itself, it can actually in some cases, lose money, lose traffic or rankings because of the link juice itself can be less in some cases. So you can do things like that, if you want to just perform a redirection, do it simple, or you can do it different ways. For example, you could redesign your site to look more like theirs. For example, if your site's blue and their site's green, change your color to green. If a brand name, say for example, purchases Greenman's Plumbery Services or Greenman, something like that, then obviously change to your brand name. Then it makes it more likely, you're both connected if you want to go down that route. So it's not really very hard in most cases, to redesign a site like theirs. Unless your site itself is done a really high spec, really complicated, it should be quite easy if you want to, redesign the site to suit whatever, style you're going for. In local SEO as well, regarding rank to rent, some businesses have been there for basically years, 50 years, 100 years, even longer. If that is the case, then it can become something that's more complicated, to say, I represent this business, and the guy's like, no, you don't, you're not them. That may happen, but if it does, just basically explain, you work for them, blah, 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 that kind of thing, and you should be fine if that does happen. But you can also just simply perform a redirection, like I said before. If you basically get payment from them, whatever you've agreed, perform a redirection can be a simple way to do it. Or you can simply sell leads. And what actually happens when you sell a lead, it could simply be you do it like this. You basically replace whatever phone number you put with their one, so whenever a call goes through, instead of it going to you, it goes to them, and then they say, hey, we represent this firm, we're their agent, we're their boss, whatever you want to call it. So you can get around it quite easy by, having something in place to basically say this is how we represent them, or they're basically our subsidy. So I'm feeling the wrong word wrong. But basically like you have different companies. You have like your parent company, you have brother and sister companies, and you can basically call the lower one baby company if you want to. You can call it different terms depending what you want to call it, where you're based. But simply put, they're the main company at top. They can call the one you're representing as like his side company, side company, baby company, whatever you want to call it. So you can call it different names if that basically makes it more simple for them to close. If you need to give them advice, you could say something like that. And that's the principle of basically do it. So do your keyword research right. If you don't know how to do keyword research or you're not comfortable, I would strongly advise you pay someone to do it for you. Now you may be thinking, that's going to cost big money, is it not? It's like everything, you can get it done. You can get it done kind of cheap. This, of course, depends who you use. You can get it done cheap for, like, say, 15. You can get it done for about $20, $15 to $20 approximately, cheap scale. If you're wanting it done more advanced, it may be worth you paying 50, 100 to get the right keywords. Once you get the right keywords done by the person you paid, if you've done everything right, it should be pretty easy for you to rank a site. Local SEO itself is not designed to be hard. Now, if you're going to say, but hey, I'm in London, it's really hard to rank here. Yes, you get exceptions in busier cities, that's definitely true, but local SEO itself is normally easy. But if you're against a really talented SEO agency, a really smart business, it can become harder. But if you're going for lower end, which is what you should generally be, or smaller scale, then it should be quite easy for you to do rank and rank. But like everything, it takes time. It's not going to be, you click your mouse a few times, you made your thousands overnight. It will take you a bit of time to rank out the site. On a news site, it'll take you, this of course depends how good you're doing it and also depends on different factors. It'll take you to rank the first page of Google approximately between like 6 months to say a year to 2 years. You can do it faster if you, for example, buy an expired domain or an auction domain. That can speed up the whole process for you. But if you're going to be, buying a already powerful site, in some cases itself, you're basically overspending. So in some cases, you may find you don't make your money back as quick. So that might not be worth it. But if you just want, a simple, for example, site to perform it, you could buy a cheap plumber site, a cheap joinery site, a cheap electrician site. That can be done, to make it more easy for you to pay the person. Because you say, this is our site, we've been running for say 5 years or however long the site's been open for, and then you do it that way. That's the way you can do it. But if you're going to be doing that, you have to work out if the cost to buy a site is worth you doing it. If you just want a cheap way to make money, that can work for you. But like always, if possible, it'd be a good idea if you're going to buy before is try and have some way you got a guaranteed or almost a guaranteed in place that this person can pay me whatever money you've agreed. That's what you should do if you're going to buy a site beforehand at an auction, expired domain, get it off a friend or someone else. Check as much as possible so you don't lose the money. That's not what you want to happen. Anyway, that's all for this part. I'll make a third one once I've basically done a bit more work. Anyway, I hope you have a good Saturday and see you.